I'm Alex from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Manatee Sanctuary from Warped Reality Games. Manatee Sanctuary is a 2 to 6 player game of drafting, sort of drafting, not actually drafting now that I think about it. Manatee Sanctuary is a 2 to 6 player of I cut, you choose, as players strive to build the best Manatee Sanctuaries. This here is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. In Manatee Sanctuary, you're going to play this game across 3 rounds, and each round is going to be a combination of taking cards, engaging in an I pick, you choose, I cut, you choose mechanism, where you're going to pass cards to your player to your left or your right, depending on the round. Then when you're done with all of that and you have your cards, you're going to utilize your cards in order to build out your sanctuary and take actions. That's going to involve you placing manatees into your sanctuary, at which point you're going to have to feed them and then score them each round. That's the basic process. Split cards, build sanctuary, take actions, get manatees, feed manatees, score manatees, repeat for 3 rounds, and that's how you play the game. The good news, this is all tracked on your board over here, showing you the exact phases. You're going to start here in the draft phase, where players are going to take the 5 cards you've been dealt at the start of the round, and then choose how to split them up into piles before passing them to the player on the left or the right, depending on the round. So for example, I'll take a look at these cards over here, and I'll choose 2 different piles to structure them. Maybe I try to go with something like this. This might be a good configuration. Honestly, I don't love how much I'm giving my opponent there. Maybe I split it up like this. This might be a little better. I think this might be the way to go. I think this is the way to go. Now, I should note, the game does give you little dots on the cards to show you the relative strength of a card. At the end of the day, things are subjective to what's good for you and or the opponent you're passing it to, but if you want a good note, you kind of want to try to split them up into the same number of dots or similar amounts of dots on each side. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass this to my opponent, where they're going to take a look at these cards and select which cards they want to keep and which cards they want to return. Maybe they decide that it's early game, building out some board is going to be a little better right now, so they'll take this stack over here and put it in the stack to keep. This stack over here, they're going to put in their stack to return above their player board, meanwhile keeping in mind that they've done the exact same thing to me, passing me a configuration of cards. I'll pretend that I'm them for a second and make 2 groupings over here, so same idea, we got 3 and 2, and now I have to choose what I want. Now I think I'm going to take this stack over here. They're both the same number of points, but I do specifically want that yellow manatee, because I know in round 2 it's going to be scoring an extra 3 points on top of the regular scoring. So I'm going to keep these 2. I might regret it, but either way, we're going to return these to the other player, and now we can go ahead and see what we got. So I'm going to return them to the other player. We pass these back to their stack to keep. I'll take the stack to return over here, which means I'm dealing with only 4 cards in the first round, which is not great, because I have to use these cards to go ahead and take the actions and expand turn. Right now, we're done with the drafting. We're going to actions and expand, and these cards are both going to be used to build out my Manatee Sanctuary, but also used for the actions on top of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm not going to overthink it, because I want to show you how to play the game, not necessarily how to play the game well. But we're going to start by building out our Sanctuary. I'm going to tuck this underneath that card over here. That's going to build a complete flower. I'm going to move my flower marker up on this track, as well as getting 1 food for building that food area over there. It's also going to be used to generate more food as you go through it, but we'll start with that over here. Then from there, I'm going to take my next card, and let's choose this card. This card will also tuck underneath, and I'll get another food over here. So I'm going to up that up by 1 as well, and then get another food on that. Then from there, I'm going to use these over here to get a yellow manatee from the bag. So I'm going to reach into my bag over here, gather a yellow manatee, putting it down, and then we're going to go ahead and take income for these income markers. The way income works in the game is each income is going to give you food equal to the amount of flower production you have. So right now, for example, because I have 2 flower production and 1, 2, 3, 4 income markers, I'm going to get 4 times 2, or 8 food, bringing me up to 10 food on my display. That's everything I've done round 1. I will also say I'm definitely not playing this efficiently. You'll see why in a second. From there, we're going to go to the feed phase. In the feed phase, you're going to go ahead and take a look and see how much food you have to pay to support your manatees. This is where the regular black manatees and the yellow manatees cost 1 food each, and the pink manatees cost 2 food each. It's also worth noting there are space constraints, which we haven't talked about. Yellow manatees require 2 space in your fields over here. So for example, this single yellow manatee takes up the full 2 that this area provides, versus the other manatees only take up 1 space. And that's all listed on your personal player board, in case you forget. Basic manatees are 1 food and 1 space. Yellow manatees are 1 food and 2 spaces. Pink manatees are 2 food and 1 space. Again, it might be confusing. It's all listed right here for you. So right now, I'm going to have to take a look, and because I only have 1 manatee, I'm going to have to pay 1 food. So I'm going to go down from 10 to 9 food, and this is where you'll find out how inefficiently I played this round, for a variety of reasons. But first of all, when you get to the scoring phase, you're going to count up your your manatees, and you'll get points depending on round 1, 2, or 3, a decreasing amount of points, meaning prioritizing around that long-term growth of your sanctuary is great, but in later rounds you don't get as much points for your manatees, so you kind of want to work on the now and the later at the same time. So for me, right now, I have 1 manatee. I'm going to only take 3 points for my 1 yellow manatee. Pink manatees cost more food to sustain, but they do give you more points, twice as many points as the regular manatees. After we're done with that, I'll go ahead and get my 3 points, which is really, by the way, really not a lot of points for a first round. We will then go to this part over here, and this is an optional scoring module, but honestly, I recommend always playing with it. It just makes the game so much better, and it's not that much rules overhead. And right now, if I had 3 or less extra remaining food at the end of the round, I would get a 5-point bonus. Right now, I have 9 extra food because I was really inefficient with my planning, so I will get a, not a 5-point bonus. I'll get no bonus for that scoring card. And right now the scoring cards we have are in round 1, points for having being very mindful of your food production. Round 2 is going to be 3 extra points for each yellow manatee, so that at least I'm working towards. And then round 3 we have this scoring configuration of building out your sanctuary in such a way. I should note all the scoring cards do have sides which specifically structure how they're going to be depending on round 1, 2, or 3, so that you're not stuck with something that's really hard to achieve in round 1, and so that the scoring and the points are proportionally measured out to be beneficial to you, to be weighted according to the difficulty of them. That's basically what you're going to do in a round. You then go to round 2, you set out those cards again, get 5 more cards, go through that process again, continuing to expand your sanctuary and continue to get more and more manatees. Also, although I should say, the one thing I didn't cover is what's the special thing about yellow manatees. Pink manatees score extra points. What do yellow manatees do? Yellow manatees mean that whenever in the future I were to play a card, let's go ahead and grab a card. If in the future I play a card that's going to give me manatees, this card right here would give me 2 manatees. What I do is for each yellow in my display, I draw an extra manatee from the bag. So your yellow manatees will increase your manatee production effectively, attracting more and more manatees to your display. Just make sure that you can afford to house them and feed them. Anytime you cannot house a manatee, you return it back to the bag and lose 2 points. Anytime you cannot feed a manatee, you return it back to the bag and you lose 2 points. So making sure that you're keeping your food upkeep in proportion with the game is a super important part of this puzzle. And that is how you play Manatee Sanctuary, which means it's time to dive into my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. And starting off with what I like, I'll start with a few, different things. I like I cut, you choose in general. I cut, you choose as a mechanic. I like the idea of trying to decide how to give you cards in a way that is as balanced as possible, so there's not an easy and obvious choice. An easy and obvious choice means I will be losing out. A less easy and less obvious choice means I'll probably be getting a better hand back. And obviously, since you have the choice, you'll choose the best pile, but best piles can be subjective. It can be different depending on the player, and at the very least, as evenly balanced as possible gives me the best opportunity to play the game well, as opposed to not doing so. Additionally, I like the goals each round. The variable goals, like I said, I would never play without these. These give a degree of difference to the gameplay experience, such that every time you dive into it, you have a slight twist to what you're going through. It mixes things up. Maybe you're building a sanctuary in a different pattern. Maybe you're focusing more on pink or yellow manatees. Maybe you're trying to be mindful of food production. Whatever it is you're trying to do, it forces you to re-examine small ways that you play through the game. And then the main thing at the end of the day is this is incredibly thinky as far as the ability to optimize around the experience. Like, this is a light filler to a degree, but it's also really not a light filler. You'll be looking at your cards trying to optimize around, okay, great, well, I need this much food production, I need to do this, I need to place that card down to get that one more flower, because that means every time I play this income card, I'll get another food, so I need to do that, and I also want to make sure that I'm not overexpending myself. If I don't have enough food, I'm going to lose points and lose my manatees, so I need to be careful there. But if I have too much food, then I was inefficient. There's a lot of thinkiness to the experience. This is not a light game by any chance. You can play it lightly. You can play this game without thinking through it all. You can dive into it and just be like, oh, I'm just going to draft and play and see how it all plays out. But there's a thinkiness behind this experience that you wouldn't necessarily guess at first glance. As far as things I don't like in the game, we're going to come exactly to the thing I just said that I do like and talk about why it doesn't work for me as well. Because the thinkiness of this game is both its strength, and for me it's the thing that holds the game back as well. Because this is very much what I would classify as a thinky filler. I can't even remember the game that tried to use that term originally. It was a game that was based on Lisboa, Mercado de Lisboa. I remember when Mercado de Lisboa was coming out, people were talking about it being a thinky filler, a shorter game that gave you a degree of depth to the experience, that it was neither a thinky thinky heavy Euro game, nor was it a filler game. It was a thinky filler. And this, I think, is actually a probably better use of that term as far as thinky filler. Like, this game plays in like 30 minutes maybe-ish, like a little more, a little less, but it gives you a lot of thinkiness to do in the game. But that is both a good thing as far as how good the experience can be, how meaty the experience can be, but it also holds it back because it also kind of defies what I want out of this experience. To me, this is not giving me that filler kind of thing. It's giving me the idea that I have to look at my cards and plan around the optimization of it, and I'm really trying to think through how to min-max everything, because you do want to min-max everything if you want to win this game. You have to really try to work your way through, well, if I play this first and then follow it up with this, then I'll get that. But honestly, if I play my yellow manatee first, then when I draw those extra manatees, I'll get one extra. But I don't know if I have enough food to do that. You'll be mathing through several different possibilities in order to optimize the way you play this game. And the problem is, if I'm playing that kind of game, I probably want a larger, bigger experience. For me, this is good at being a filler, and it's good at being a thinky filler, but I just don't know if that level of thinkiness is what I want from the experience, and playing it without thinking through the consequences just doesn't feel as optimal to me and not the way I'd want to do it. The other complaint I have is a smaller one, but it is still a complaint, which is at the end of the day, despite the I cut you choose mechanism, there is randomness to the experience that can definitely get in the way of who scores better, who plays better, despite all the work that you're putting in. Drawing a hand of cards with low pip values, at the end of the day, even though there's I cut you choose, it means I'm getting back half the pip values compared to somebody else who draws a handful of large pip values. There still is luck of the draw in a 3-round game where you don't have a lot of time for that to even out. And that luck of the draw is going to be also present when you draw manatees from the bag. Drawing special manatees can often be very helpful to increasing your score. Granted, they have additional costs to them, so you do need to plan around that, but nonetheless, you have to plan around the randomness either way, so you can never plan perfectly, and then you're hoping that you kind of work your way into enough good ones that will help improve your score, or your ability to draw more manatees. So both in terms of the initial hand, as well as in terms of the manatees you're drawing from the bag, it is going to give you an extra luck of the draw on top of all that thinking you're working your way towards anyway. As far as final thoughts on Manatee Sanctuary, I overall enjoy Manatee Sanctuary, but it does have exactly what I just spent a few minutes talking about. It has that aspect where I'm not sure where this sees play. It's too heavy to be a filler experience. It's too light to be a thinky, giant, media, or Rosenberg game. It falls into the middle where I find myself expending a lot of thought on a filler experience, which isn't necessarily where I want to be. Despite that, I do enjoy the game. I just don't know if I'm the main target audience for it. For me, it's going to be a 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, if you're looking for other games to check out, definitely check out Stamp Swap, a game that's going to have an I cut you choose arc to it, plays across a few rounds as well, as you try to draft tiles and then go ahead and I cut you choose them between other players. Well, not fully that, but a similar degree of the arc to the experience, and another one worth checking out that's going to be a little longer, but also a little lighter to it. And if you want one of my personal favorites in terms of the meatiness of the experience, but one that does so without the level of thinking through multiple chains of how your actions can occur, but still giving you the depth and filler aspect to it, definitely recommend checking out Hanamakoji. I find that gives you the filler aspect and the thinkiness aspect, but in a way that feels less like you're going through every possible iteration than you might want to do in Manatee Sanctuary. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.